being issued on the market for the first time. So that is called a primary market. And as investors, you're investing in that market. Okay. So an example would be for example, the issuance of bonds in Zambia is done at the Bank of Zambia. So that's the primary market for bonds. Okay. Then the secondary market is where previously issued securities are bought and sold amongst individuals. So for example, you and I decide then to start trading. So the trading that's taking place happens on the secondary market. So that's where the trading of securities takes place. Securities being the shares that you're buying from each other via the organized market. Then also, for example, the trade of bonds also takes place on the market, which is the part that the Securities and Exchange Commission regulates in terms of bond trading. So what is the role of the Securities and Exchange Commission? So firstly, we have to offer oversight of the market. Everything that's happening in the capital markets, our job is to ensure that this market is working properly and it's orderly. And how do we do that? The SEC is a regulatory authority that is established to oversee the capital markets. So we are established under a Securities Act, which my colleague will talk about from the legal department. So our mandate is to ensure that the market is operating in a fair, efficient, and transparent manner. So we have rules and regulations for all that to happen. Okay. Then our other mandate is our other role for the SEC is to offer investor protection. So how we do that is by enforcing the compliance of the laws, and ensuring that there's disclosure that is made to the investors from the issuers. The issuers are people that have issued securities into the market so that the investors can invest in these securities. So our role is to ensure that you are protected. And how are you going to be protected is by making sure there's information that is available to you as an investor. Okay. So then we also provide educational programs that are aimed to improve financial literacy in the country. The programs are aimed to educate the public on what our role is and what the opportunities are in the market, their rights and do's and don'ts of the market and things like that. So that's what we do in terms of investor protection. Then we also do a function what is known as market supervision. We need to supervise this market to ensure that people are adhering to legal and ethical standards. So this includes the regulation of the Lusaka Securities Exchange, the stockbrokers and all intermediaries that you will find in the market. I'll talk to them shortly. Then we also do what is called policy development. So we work with stakeholders to develop policies and frameworks that promote the growth and development of the capital markets. So we work closely with other stakeholders like the LuSE and the government in order to promote the development of different policies and the market at large. Then I'll now speak to the participants that we have in the market. We have what is called issuers. In my earlier statement, I mentioned people that are coming to the market to issue securities for the first time, where you are trading where buying in the primary market are called issuers. So these issuers can be companies, that is corporations, or the government. So the companies will issue their securities, their shares, in order for you to buy a share in that company for expansion purposes. Okay, so that's what an issuer is. So the issuer can be a corporation or the government. The government can issue bonds or treasury bills to the public for projects and any other national development projects that they would like to do, and also in efforts to manage national debt. Then we have the other players in the market are investors. Investors are just you and me who can invest in this market for reasons of saving, or you want to save for a better future, or if you'd like to save to grow your portfolio and things like that. So for personal savings in stocks, bonds, and other securities that are offered in the market, you become what is called a retail investor. Then we have institutional investors such as pension funds and insurance companies. They invest large sums of money on behalf of clients. So for example, if you are subscribed to a pension fund, the pension fund can invest in the capital market. Those funds that you are investing there, they are invested in the capital market so that they can grow your monies, your pension, for instance. So that's what you call institutional investors. Then the other market participants that we have are called intermediaries. So intermediaries are people who will act on your behalf as an investor in the market. You and I are not able to walk to the LuSE to lean and say, I would like to buy shares. We have to do that through what is called an intermediary. So the intermediaries can be stockbrokers, they can be investment advisors, they can be fund managers. So the difference with these is that, so for example, the stockbroker, the SEC, one of the functions that we do is licensing, yeah? So licensing is where we offer a license to a person to trade or to rather to operate in the capital market. So in order for you and I to buy shares, we have to go through this stockbroker who is going to be licensed by the commission to execute your transactions in the market. They'll buy and sell on your behalf. Should you want to invest or do any kind of transaction in the market, the stockbroker gets a license that enables them to buy and sell in the market. I must also mention here that it's very important as an investor that you deal with a person who is licensed. For any type of investment that you're going to do, please ensure that the person you're dealing with is licensed by the commission. So we do offer issue licenses, and people that are licensed are vetted, and they are professionals that are working in the market. So, and why I'm mentioning this is because there's a lot of fraudsters out there. I'm sure we've noticed that a lot of fraudulent activities are happening in the country. And reason being that people are dealing with people who are not regulated, people who are not licensed. So it's part of your duty as a citizen or as an investor to deal with somebody who is licensed. And the stockbroker is one such person, okay? So there are people out there who definitely purport to be brokers of securities, of different organizations. You have to just make sure that their license is a Securities and Exchange Commission license. So you verify it by contacting us, okay? Then I also mentioned another intermediary who is called an investment advisor. So an investment advisor is a company or individual who offers services to investors like you and me on portfolio management and investment strategies. So the investment advisor does not get money on your behalf to go and invest. That's a major difference between the two. An investment advisor will get money from you. They'll charge you, for example, for the service, the advice that they are giving you, the strategies that they help you come up with. They are going to charge you for that. But they're not going to charge you. They're not going to get your money and go and place it in an investment for you. So you need to be very careful at that. So you need to know the difference. The stockbroker is going to invest on your behalf. You give them your money, they'll invest it. Whereas the investment advisor is simply giving you advice and strategies on how you can manage your portfolio. I hope I'm clear. Yeah. Then we have what are called fund managers. Fund managers manage pooled funds on behalf of investors, focusing on long-term growth for their investments. So, for example, collective investment schemes, that's an example of a scheme that is managed by fund managers. So the fund managers manage this pool of resources where different people have put their resources to invest in particular products, different products. So for stockbrokers, for example, like I said earlier, they're investing on your behalf in things like shares and bonds. So there you go, you pick yourself. For example, I want to put my money in ShopRite. I want to put my money in Zambeef. So the broker is investing on your behalf. You've got specific companies that you have picked that you'd like to invest in. But for a fund manager, their duty is they come up with a pool of securities, different types. They could be equities being the shares that I talked about. It could be property, it could be bonds. So they come up with a pool, and then with that portfolio where you and I can invest as individuals, but together in that particular fund. So here I'm not going there individually to say I would like to buy Shilanga Cement, I would like to buy this particular stock. What's happening is that you and I are working together. We're going to get our monies and give this fund manager. So the fund manager will get our monies, your money, her money, whoever we put together into a pool, then they invest for us in what is called a collective investment scheme. Okay. The next participant in the market is the Securities Exchange, who are hosting us here today. So the Lusaka Securities Exchange is a platform where the securities are listed and traded. So they are also a participant in the market in that they are offering you this platform for you to come and do the trading. So they are the market where all this trading, where everybody else is converging to trade. I'm sure Lina will speak more into that. Then we have what is called clearing and settlement systems as a participant in the market. They ensure the smooth transfer of securities from funds between the buyers and the sellers. Again, that's something I know Lina will touch on. Yeah. So what is the relevance of capital markets? So as the term says itself, capital is mainly for investment, right? Or rather for a business. It's money that you want to grow. So capital markets, one of the relevance is that it provides a platform for companies to raise capital for expansion and development. So it's a platform where a company can come and raise money. They come to the market, they offer their shares, people buy these shares, and they offer the money or the capital they need for expansion programs, projects, and for the development of this country, as well as the company itself. They also offer liquidity to investors. So investors have the ability to buy and sell securities by providing you liquidity in the market. That's what the capital market does. A well-functioning capital market will allow somebody, as an investor myself, for example, to buy and sell my shares easily. Meaning, if I buy my shares today, and today, after a few months or years, I should be able to get cash when I need it, so you can easily sell. So that's what this liquidity is about. It's supposed to formulate that liquidity where you can buy and sell easily and get your money in your shares in cash form. Then capital markets also facilitate price discovery. So this facilitates the determination of prices of financial instruments based on supply and demand. So, for example, when you're trading in shares, right? In, let's say, a ShopRite or an Airtel, the value of that stock is based on the demand and supply that is there in the market, okay? So you and I are going to buy a stock at 2 kwacha, the next day is trading at this kwacha. So as we know in, let's say, economics, demand and supply. So when something is on demand, the price keeps going up, right? So that's how price discovery works, even in the market. It's just based on price, demand and supply, okay? So that's how I'm sure we always ask, like, how do we come up with the stocks, the prices that we're seeing there? How are they moving? So that's one of the factors that the capital market helps with, which is price discovery. Then another relevance of capital markets is risk diversification. So capital markets allow investors to diversify their risks, to diversify their investments across different asset classes, sectors, and geographic regions. This helps mitigate risk by spreading investments, which reduce the impact of poor performance in any area. So this risk diversification refers to things like investment risk and risk sharing. So companies and investors are going to share this risk by the company has brought stocks to the market, and you are sharing in the risk of this market by buying the stock in that market. And then depending on the performance of that market, the risk is being shared, all right? That was my brief presentation. I'll hand over to my colleague from the legal department to get into the securities regulatory framework.
Good morning once more. My name's Thomas Tole. I work for the Securities and Exchange Commission from a department called Legal and Enforcement Services. So this is a department of the Commission that runs with the enforcement program of the Commission. It's a department which provides secretarial services to the Commission, law reform and development services, among others. So for the purpose of my presentation, I'll take you through the securities legal and regulatory framework. Then I also take time to highlight some of the salient provisions of the Securities Act and the rules and regulations made there under. So we'll start with the establishment of the Securities and Exchange Commission, which for the sake of this presentation, I'll refer to as the SEC Act or the Act. So in terms of establishment, the Securities and Exchange Commission is a statutory body. It was established by an act of parliament, the repealed Cap 354 of the laws of Zambia. Nevertheless, its existence has been continued by the Securities Act number 41 of 2016, which was recently amended by Act number 21 of 2022. So in terms of the regulatory mandate of the Commission, the regulatory mandate of the Commission is basically twofold, which is market development and market supervision. So in terms of market development, we do take a number of regulatory activities that are meant to grow the market. And amongst the activities that we do undertake include licensing, registration, recognition, and authorization of market players. Then in terms of market supervision, we do undertake a number of activities which range from inspections, investigations, and enforcement actions. So from the start, our key objectives are basically to promote a transparent, fair, and efficient capital market. Our other mandate is investor protection. Then the other mandate is to regulate the conduct of capital markets operators. Then we also have a mandate to undertake activities that are aimed at avoiding systemic risk. Then in terms of the actual or specific legal provisions under our Act, which provides for our regulatory mandate, you may wish to look at Section 9 of the Securities Act, number 41 of 2016, as amended by Act number 21 of 2022. So there you're going to find a number of functions highlighted. But in summary, there are just 3 of them: investor protection, ensuring that capital markets are transparent, fair, and efficient, and regulating the conduct of capital markets players. Then, in terms of our regulatory mandate, we belong to an international organization called the International Organization for Security Commissions, called IOSCO. That's where we benchmark. And under IOSCO, there's one key provision which highlights the primary purpose of securities regulation, which are the 3 that I mentioned about: investor protection, ensuring that capital markets are transparent, fair, and efficient, and avoiding systemic risk. So basically, that is what you see summarized under our Section 9. It's an international body to which we benchmark whatever we do. It provides for standards that we try to aspire to. I'll go to keep. Thank you for that, Lina. So I'll go to key provisions of the Securities Act that we frequently refer you to do what we do. So I talked about the gatekeeping functions in terms of market development. I talked about one of the ways in which we grow the market is that we license capital market operators. So other capital market operators, for instance, dealers, they apply for licenses and we give them licenses. Then study did talk about collective investment schemes. Those are authorized to undertake or participate in the conduct of securities business. Then she also did try to explain about the connection between the SEC and the LuSE. So the LuSE is the platform, whereas the SEC is the regulator. But in terms of the space that the LuSE occupies under the capital markets, the LuSE is referred to as a self-regulated organization. But for it to have that status, it has to be recognized by the commission. It has to be given that recognition status. Then the other entity that we have under the capital market that was given the self-regulatory status is the Capital Markets Association of Zambia. This is an association to which capital markets operators belong to. So apart from the key provisions that I've referred to that speak to licensing, recognition, authorization, and registration, we'd also talk about provisions that talk about disclosure requirements. These provisions basically refer to the requirement by issuers of registered securities to disclose all material information that would enable investors to make informed decisions. Then there are also provisions that talk to investor protection. And one of the key provisions that we usually refer to is Section 92K, which allows the commission to take all reasonable steps to protect the interests of investors against illegal and improper trading practices by any person. Then there are also provisions under the Act which allow us to take enforcement actions as well as inspections and investigations. Remember, one of our key mandates is to promote the orderly growth and development of Zambia's capital markets. And in doing so, we inspect the activities of licensed capital markets operators. Then if we find anything which would require us to take enforcement action, we do take that enforcement action. Then we also do take what are known as investigations to ascertain how capital markets are conducting their businesses. And if we find anything that would warrant us to take enforcement action, we'll take the necessary enforcement action, which would range from imposing administrative penalties. For instance, we can fine a capital markets operator to pay a particular sum to the commission, or we can revoke the license, or we can cancel the license, or we can suspend the license of the capital markets operator. Then we can also place the capital markets operator under what is called as supervisory possession by the commission. We can also publicly censure the publicly censure the capital markets operator or any person. So a public censure, this is why the media would also come up to be a key stakeholder in what we do. I'm sure you might have seen this in the press. You've seen adverts coming out, the SEC has done this, the SEC has taken this action against a person, whatever it is. So those things would drown the media, would send you that advert, you publish it. But for you to do that, we need to communicate the right information to the public. That's where media literacy comes in. And that's where this workshop also is coming up to very key. So that probably we report the right information out there. Because we might take an enforcement action, but if it's not properly communicated, and if you don't understand why we took that enforcement action, then that may not be helpful to the orderly growth of Zambia's capital markets. So in summary, study and the other area presenters like Mr. Kabaso did mention about the relevance that capital markets play in the economic development of Zambia. There is also finance for companies and issuers. And the SEC still remains to have that regulatory mandate of ensuring that there's the orderly growth and development of Zambia's capital markets. But to do that, the media remains to be a key stakeholder. Why? If you again go to our regulatory mandate under Section 9, one of our regulatory mandates is investor education and awareness. And on that one, the media, again, they might help us to disseminate the right information in our quest to educate the public about financial education. But in as much as the media may be playing that pivotal role, the media can also be wrongly used by fraudsters. How can they be used? They can be used to advertise unlicensed investor advisory services. Study did talk about the need to license investor advisors. Then they can also be used to promote unlicensed investment products in Zambia's capital markets. How? They can be used to promote Ponzi schemes. I want to believe we all know what Ponzi schemes. Those things that you see in the media, on social media, invest 1,000, after 4 weeks, make 3,000, whatever it is. But if the media is not informed, it becomes very, very easy for a person to just give them an advert to do that. So the media can affect how investors behave and the confidence that they have in the capital markets. And if we disseminate wrong information, that can also corrode investor confidence. Thus, media literacy remains relevant. And as the media, we need to report the correct information and the accurate information. But for us to do that, we need to have some knowledge in securities regulation. I'll end my presentation there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the SEC for giving us the overview of the capital markets in Zambia. So we've got an idea, a rough idea of what they do. So right now, we're going to take a group photo. So we can stretch our legs a bit, and straight after the group photo, we can have our tea break. However, the tea break literally is grab and sit. We started really late, bad for ourselves and also bad for the media, right? Time is of the essence. So let's just grab our snacks and then come and sit so that we can get into the next session. The next session is the LuSE, the Lusaka Securities Exchange, and we'll open with essentially the structure of the LuSE. Then we'll go into the subsidiary of the LuSE, which maybe most of you don't know about, the LICSA, the Lusaka Clearing and Settlement Agency. Then we'll get into understanding the stock exchange. All right, so get excited. Please don't look defeated. Don't be defeated. We can do this, right? Yeah? Okay, great. So let's go outside and take a group photo quickly. Let's make haste. Let's not take our time. Time is of the essence. Let's go through the doors outside and then we can take the group photo. Then we come in and have tea. We can start moving. It doesn't look hasty at all. Like it looks really slow, turtle slow. Yeah, all standing in one line. There's juice that side as well with the same snacks. So there's juice on the left-hand side and then there's tea on the right-hand side. So she can have the presentation.
But then I ask you at the end of the session if you still remember. And I hope it's a stranger that you asked. Thank you so much. Okay. As Lina had alluded to, my name is Sherry Zulu Maponga from the Lusaka Securities Exchange. I'm in the Legal and Compliance Department, currently serving as the acting Legal and Compliance Manager. I'm going to take you through a um, very straightforward presentation, I hope, of what we do at the Lusaka Securities Exchange, particularly in the legal department. So just for starters, the Lusaka Securities Exchange was established as a private company. Contrary to popular opinion, we are not a government entity. We are actually a private company. So the Lusaka Securities Exchange, yeah, you're surprised, yeah? Yes, it's actually a private company limited by shares. And some of our shareholders comprise of brokers and other private entities. So previously, the requirement was that if you're a broker on the exchange, you had to be a shareholder in the exchange. This has since been done away with. So now we have both brokers as shareholders as well as other private entities as part of the shareholding structure. Um, Moving on to the regulatory framework, I'm sure you noticed our regulator belabored to talk about the Securities Exchange Act number. I'm told there's a 2022 one. I needed to catch up with that. But what's written there is Act number 41 of 2016, but there were further amendments in the 2022 provisions that we should probably be looking out for. So the Securities and Exchange Act, the Securities Act rather, is what establishes us. So certain provisions in that particular act provide for the existence of stock exchanges. And in this particular case in Zambia, we are the main exchange and the only exchange that's currently running. We are currently governed by a number of rules and regulations in order to run. And the list that I've highlighted here is not exhaustive. When you go to our website, you'll be able to see that there's a number of rules that respond to different requirements. So some of the rules that I've highlighted there is the harmonized listing requirements. So that's a fancy name really for the listing rules. So this is basically the rules that your issuers or companies that want to come to market will be looking at. This is where all your requirements and what you're going to be doing before you come onto the exchange and even after you come onto the exchange. This is the particular set of rules that is governing us. The other provisions there are the trading procedures. Once you've been onboarded onto the exchange, what are you being regulated by? Those are our LuSE trading procedures. I encourage all of us to actually visit our website, and we'll be able to see it. It's basically under a subtitle called regulations. You'll be able to see those provisions. I've also highlighted the listing rules for debt securities. So as we are aware, the LuSE doesn't just, I hope we are aware, we don't just have stocks on the market. We equally have bonds. I'm sure Lina will be able to speak elaborately to that. And these are the rules that govern debt securities. So in this case, it's going to be your rules that speak to bonds. We also have what we call the LuSE alternative market rules. So we, other than the what is called the main board, where companies come to list, we also have an alternative market where we have your smaller SME that is not your big corporate that is able to list on this particular market called the alternative market. So these are some of the rules that govern the exchange. And as I mentioned, the list is really not exhaustive. My colleague from legal, from the Securities and Exchange Commission mentioned that they provide us with what is known as an SRO status. So SRO status is basically self-regulatory organization status. What this means is that all the members that we currently have listed on our exchange, all the companies, as well as the brokers that are registered with us, are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So as an SRO status, we have regulatory supervision over two main stakeholders. That's the listed companies that are listed on the exchange, as well as trading and sponsoring brokers. So one of the major things I do when you find me at work is basically looking out for what we know as continuing obligations. So once companies come onto the exchange and they list disclosures that we require of listed companies. So some of the major requirements are disclosure of financial statements, because obviously every investor, whether a retail investor or an institutional investor, wants to make an informed decision. I believe that is where the media houses come in for information dissemination as well. But one of the key things that we require of listed companies is to ensure that they're publishing their financial statements. So we have financial statements published every 6 months, as well as at the end of every financial year. So those are some of the mandatory requirements for listed companies. Other disclosure requirements include changes in directorate. So if there's been a change in the board of a company, we require that to also be disclosed. And I am in the background on the vetting process to ensure that that is actually done, and it's actually done in good time. We also ensure that price sensitive information is also published. So this is anything that will influence the price of shares on the market. If you remember, our regulator mentioned that the price really is determined by supply and demand. And this really is influenced by the information that is in the market. So we also we actually ensure that price sensitive information is disclosed at all times. Any information that will speak to the price of securities has to be disclosed. The other requirement, which is also not exhaustive, is that of annual general meetings as well as extra general meeting, ordinary general meetings. So these are meetings that a company holds. The annual general meeting, obviously, that is held at the end of every financial year to speak to the financials, to speak to the appointment of their directors, to speak to appointment of their auditors, and to the declaration of a dividend. This is also a requirement for listed companies to ensure that that notice goes out. The particular requirement is that the notice goes out 21 days before, to ensure that every investor is informed in good time. We also have what we call extraordinary general meetings. We also ensure that those notices go out on time. So these are particularly for transactions that a company would like to undertake and of significant impact on the company and would require shareholder approval. These ones are also mandatory for the company to ensure that investors are informed in time. So this is really, in a nutshell, what we basically look out for as legal and compliance. So we basically are ensuring that our listed companies are adhering to the continuing obligations, as well as providing legal advisory to ensure that investors are protected at all times. Thank you very much.
Okay, as we're just trying to get ready for the next presentation, thank you very much, Sherry, for giving us an outline on the structure of the LuSE. So from the audience, we've been too quiet. What did you learn from the presentations, whether it's SEC, whether it's this particular presentation, what have we learned so far? And me, I'm very interactive, I'm violent, so I'm going to just be giving people the mic. So what have you learned today?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shem Malinda from Zambia Army Defense Team. What I have learned so far from the onset of the presentation is how we, the media, can interpret as well as send forth financial or business reports, be it in print or broadcast, that will be able to speak to an ordinary person out there, not just aligning with the figures necessarily, but giving it life and interpreting whatever we actually learn from forums or workshops such as this one to an ordinary person. How will it affect the way they buy a bag of meal, for example? How will it affect an ordinary person with regards to how they commute, how much they pay when they commute a bus from home to town?
Breaking it down, the media is instrumental in breaking it down to the ordinary person, to the everyday person. Anybody else? Oh, me, I'm for violence. I am supposed to give anyone gender balance.
My name is Susan Tembo. Yes, I'm coming from Unza Radio. So far what I've learned is on how us as reporters, how we can be able to articulate business related issues in terms of figures, credibility, and how we can be accountable to the public in terms of reporting business news.
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Thank you so much. Again, that's Unza Radio. So the upcoming journalists who are going to filter into, I'm sure, a lot more of these media houses. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Where's the mic that side? Anybody else? People are even scared to look at me. Okay, there with at the back, they can pass it on.
Good morning, everyone. My
Good
name
morning.
is Rachel Mumba from Diamond TV.
Yes, Rachel.
I think I'd like to say thank you very much for this training. I think to the conveners, because I know issues to do with capital market can be data heavy, and it's very difficult sometimes to break it down and translate it in a language that people are able to understand. But what I've learned, I'm actually really shocked to find that Lusaka, is it Lusaka Stock Exchange? No?
Let's get it right. Lusaka, you can see it on the banners.
Yes. But it's like,
Lusaka Securities
yes,
Exchange.
Lusaka Securities Exchange is a private entity. That's a shocker. I had no idea. But you see, that's what you get from learning. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the feedback, and it's good that you're learning. Right now, what I'll do is I'll ask the next speaker, Mr. Peter Mwepu, to come forward. He's from the Lusaka Clearing and Settlement Agency. Have you heard of that name before? Oh, wonderful. So you're going to learn, he's going to tell you a bit more about what Lusaka Clearing and Settlement Agency is, and he'll give some context to that. So Mr. Mwepu, thank you. Can we give him a round of applause?
Morning, everyone. My name's Peter Mwepu. Of course, no relationship to the footballer. Okay, so I come from the Lusaka Securities Central Shares Depository. Now, of course, this has since been amended to the Lusaka Clearing and Settlement Agency. So still one institution, but basically we are a subsidiary of the LuSE. So in my presentation, I'll talk about the role of the CSD, who are the stakeholders of the CSD, technology, services, as well as clearing and settlement. So that will be the outline of my presentation. Of course, I'll not go through everything, but I'll just give a brief overview of who or what the CSD does. So as mentioned, CSD, what does it stand for? Basically stands for Central Securities or Shares Depository. So as a unit of the LuSE, we provide depository, clearing, and settlement services to the securities market. So what that simply means is that we are the engine or the operations of the exchange. So basically, we are the people that make things happen at the exchange by providing these services, the depository, clearing, and settlement services, of which I will talk about later. Now, as the Central Securities Depository unit, we are guided by, of course, CSD rules, operational procedures, as well as operational procedures that are approved by management, as well as the regulator. So like we mentioned, the SEC is our regulator. And this takes me to the next slide, which is who are the stakeholders of the CSD? We have the Securities and Exchange Commission, like mentioned. They are the regulators of the LuSE. We also have the Lusaka Securities Exchange. So like we've mentioned, the Securities Exchange provides a platform for people to buy and sell securities. So we are like a support unit to the LuSE. Then we have participants. Who are these participants? Like mentioned, we have the brokers. So the brokers are the people or the institutions that enable you or people out there to be able to trade, that is to buy and sell securities. Then we have the issuers. So the issuers, these are the people that have issued or given out securities for sale to the market and their registries. Then we have banks. Remember, when there's trading that is taking place on the exchange, money is involved. So financial institutions like banks come into play. Then we have the investors as well. Now, for this to happen, of course, we need technology. And in doing this, we have platforms or trading systems that enable this to happen. And in our case, we have a partner from South Africa called the Securities Trading Technology. These are the people that provide the system support to the CSD or the Central Securities Depository for us to be able to provide the services that I'll talk about shortly, which is the clearing and settlement. Now, participants, like we mentioned, are one of the stakeholders of the CSD. Now, these maintain securities accounts at the CSD. So basically what we are simply saying is these participants, the brokers, like was mentioned by our presenters, they enable you and me, the public out there, to be able to buy or sell securities. So now for you to be able to do that, you need to have an account. So these are the people that facilitate the opening of that account with the exchange, and that account sits with the CSD. So anybody who buys or sells securities, they've got an account, just like the way we all have bank accounts. So that is what also the CSD does. They maintain accounts for people that trade on the securities market. Now, what are the services that we offer? So like I've mentioned, account opening. So if you want to buy and sell securities, you have to open an account. How is that done? Like we've mentioned, through the participants, through the brokers. You give them your KYC details, just like when you're opening a bank account. And when that is done, they forward that information to us and we open that account. So we know this particular person has opened an account at the exchange, and this exchange is sitting in the CSD. Or this account rather is sitting with the CSD unit. So what are some of the services we offer apart from account opening? We have what are called deposits. So if you have shares and you want those to be registered in electronic form, the CSD provides you that avenue. So you can deposit your share certificate and it will be converted to electronic form, and it will sit in our database too, which will say this particular person owns a part or this number of shares in this company. The opposite is also true. We also facilitate withdrawals. So if somebody doesn't want their shares to be in electronic form, they can be withdrawn from the exchange. So we also facilitate that. Then we also facilitate what are called transfers. So basically in transfers, you're simply saying, if you don't want your account to sit, or rather the account remains the same, if you want to change broker, so to speak, that can be facilitated through us as the CSD. Then we offer what are called pledges. So pledges, basically, we are simply saying is that when you own securities, you can use those to obtain a facility from a lending institution. So we'll simply tell the lending facilities to say, this particular individual or particular companies has the following stocks or securities, and therefore this is their value. And therefore that can be used by an individual or a company to obtain financing from a lending institution. Then we offer what are called corporate actions. And then we also provide statements. So statements, just like I've mentioned, from your bank account, you're able to, from your bankers rather, you're able to get a statement of what are your balances in the bank. We also do that, except for us, it will show you what you hold in terms of the securities that you have, if any, and also bonds. Then we also offer what is called numbering, or what we call ISIN codes. Now, these are technical terms, but let me break it down. Basically, that term you're seeing, ISIN, simply stands for International Securities Identification Number. So each time a security is offloaded on the market, it's given a code, and that code is called the International Securities Identification Number. So we are the ones that process or issue out those numbers as the CSD. Maybe for your own information, if you've looked at the advert made by the Bank of Zambia when they are about to have an auction, if you note those securities that they advertise to the public to participate in, they always have what is called a securities number. So that securities number is gotten from us as the CSD, who are part of the Lusaka Securities Exchange under LICSA. Then we provide what is called custodial services. We also provide the processing of secondary market trading of bonds. So as you are aware, my colleague mentioned that when something is issued for the first time, it's in the primary market. Then the secondary market allows for that instrument to be traded, to be bought and sold again. So one of those instruments are bonds. And therefore, as the CSD, we facilitate the processing of those bonds on the secondary market. So clearing is just basically the preparation of trades to be executed for settlement on the exchange. So what we are simply saying here is when you trade, you buy or sell shares. Those shares, obviously, at some particular point, will have to exchange or change ownership, so to speak. And that will occur after 3 days. That's why we have what is called T+3. So for example, if you trade today, come Friday, we are the ones that to provide that settlement service where shares actually, if you bought, they move to your name. And also on the other side, the person who's supposed to receive the money is given the money. So this is what we mean by settlement, basically. Now, in terms of settlements, we run settlements in 3 scenarios. We have transactions between 2 clients of the same participant. What we are simply saying is you can have 2 clients. They belong to the same broker. So they trade with the same broker. What we are going to do then is that settlement between those 2 clients, we shall facilitate that. Then we can have 2 clients with 2 different participants. You have 2 different brokers. So that also, we also facilitate the settlement of those transactions. And then we have transactions between 2 clients and different participants and a different settlement bank. So we also facilitate for that. So basically, in a nutshell, this is what the CSD does, which is an arm or a subsidiary of the Lusaka Securities Exchange. I end my presentation here. Unless you have any questions, those are welcome. If there's none, we'll hand back to the presenter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mwepu. You've left the laptop. Mr. Mwepu, you've left the laptop. You've left the laptop. Another round of applause. I'm sure you have questions. Let's just finish the last segment of the exchange. But I'm very sure you have questions. Let me just get my PC. Due to time, we may not be that interactive. However, I'm a bit biased by my section is the best section. There is, so please be attentive. And I'm hoping that you learn a lot from this bit. Okay, so as earlier introduced, my name is Lina Lungu. I'm in the business development department at the Lusaka Securities Exchange. So that's another thing I know we've grappled with for years. People are still used to Lusaka Stock Exchange, but we actually changed in 2016. Yeah, so to Lusaka Securities Exchange. Same company, we just changed the name a little bit. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand why. So we'll go through the presentation. I know that a lot of other speakers coming, so I don't want to eat too much in time either, but just to give a quick overview of what has sort of been touched on already, but just let's get a bird's eye view as we zoom in. So this first slide just talks about the financial markets. So we have got different financial market has got different segments. So we've got the commodity side, you've got the money markets, you've got the pensions insurance side, and you've got capital markets. These are all cardinal in forming a robust financial system, which we have. So in our economy, we've got all four of them. So money markets, who regulates the money markets? It's a question you actually have to answer. Who regulates the money markets? We can't hear you. You've got the answer, but we can't hear you. The Bank of Zambia, okay? Yep, so we know that part, okay. Pensions and insurance, who regulates that bit? Who said that? Well, yep. Right, pensions and insurance, capital markets, so that's a bit biased. That one is not allowed, eh? If you don't know this one, I think maybe you should go get some rest at home. But we've just mentioned them there in the room, the Securities and Exchange Committee. Yes, SEC, who screamed that one out? Yeah, she was very passionate about it. Yes, SEC regulates this segment. And the commodities market is just a little bit broad because there's so many commodities. There are soft commodities, there are hard commodities. So there's not one regulator for it. I'll give an example of agricultural commodities. That sits under the agricultural one bit under the Agricultural Credits Act. So the Ministry of Agriculture is the one who runs with that. But there are different other ones, mines, and have got a different regulator, energy, different regulator. So all sorts of commodities have got different regulators. So you can't just pick one. However, fundamentally, they all make this financial market or this financial system. So breaking it down, we're talking about capital markets today. Here's our capital markets. We have got on top our regulator. Then we've got us, the LuSE, then brokers, then listed companies, then institutional investors, then retail investors. This is just how we're structured as a market in comparison to the capital markets, and this is specific to the LuSE. Okay, so we've touched on this already, right? You picked that up from the prior speakers. I won't stay on it. So importantly, let's define what a securities exchange is. This is very important because what we tend to see in the market is people confusing the Securities and Exchange Commission with the LuSE. And then you ask the difference and people are like, we don't know. We don't know what the difference is between the two of you. So on that side, I think Stella did a good job and told us, okay, this is who we are and this is what we do. We regulate this capital market space. With the LuSE, we are a market player within the capital markets. Does that make sense? So we play the part of the securities exchange. We're a securities exchange and we are licensed by the commission to play that role of being a securities exchange. Does that make sense? Oh no, that's bad. I just need a bit of feedback so that I know you're with me. Yeah? Okay, it makes sense. So this is what the distinction is between the two of us. So number one, we're a structured marketplace. The image I've got there, can you see the image? Is it clear? Yeah, it's a market, like a normal, ordinary market. I don't know if it's Soweto. No. Anyway, oh, it's at the back of Kulimata. Anyway, it's City Market, eh? Yes, yes. Yeah, it's City Market. Yep. So essentially what we're trying to say is that the stock market, think about it when you're thinking about it in a simple way. Think about it like a market, right? But this one is really structured. The stock market is structured, the market a little bit not so structured. But I think a lot of the things you can relate to. So for example, there is usually a licensed regulatory body. For us, it's SEC, right? We told you about that one. What about City Market? Who is it? Who would be the regulating authority there? Good. Yep. So see their similarities, right? Transparent and efficient. Okay. On the LuSE, we always say what we have or what we give is transparent and efficient. One of the key things we do to make sure that there's transparency and efficiency is that we show you each time to say, these are the closing prices for the stocks which have traded today. How else do we see that at City Market? Where have we seen that before? Excuse me? Okay, which says what? Okay, so that's on the LuSE side, right? Are you talking about the LuSE side? What about in City Market? What would be the transparency and efficiency? It's rare, it's true, it's rare, and it comes far and in between. I think there's one TV station I saw that time who does various commodities. Okay, this is the price of tissues, this is the price of shan. Yes, it's prime. Diamond. So sorry, it's Diamond TV. So such things are what inform transparency, right? So I can see what the prices are at a particular point. But in city market, whether you like it or not, aunties put all the placards, on the bananas, it says 3 kwacha. That's transparency, right? Yeah. So so think about it in the same way. The way we have the closing prices, auntie at city market has said bananas for 3 kwacha. Same thing, okay? So buyers and sellers interact. This is almost a no-brainer, but we keep forgetting it when you come to market, right? When you go to city market, what do you find? Buyers and sellers, right? That's what makes a market. There has to be, if there are no buyers, it's just people who have got stock. If there are no sellers, it's just people who want to buy, right? So in the same way, on the stock market, you need buyers and sellers. Are you staying with me? So act as a financial intermediary, okay? The middleman. Middleman between who? Buyers and sellers, right? So buyers and sellers through the broker meet on the market. Does that make sense? Okay. And there's a set of rules for an orderly and efficient market. And we've already talked about that. I think legal counsel talked about that, as well as the SEC talked about rules in order for this market to function properly. So that's a securities exchange. So let's talk about the LuSE in particular, in terms of its stuff. So yeah, I didn't think about the color choice here, but anyway, it's green. And there are different facts about the exchange. So we opened on the 21st of February, 1994. We've been in it oh my, we're in February. Oh my. We are 31 this year. So we are 31 years this year. And we are a unified market, like somebody mentioned, to say that both equity and debt is traded on our market. So it's not just the share part, it's also bonds which are traded. The first listing was in 1995. It was Chilanga Cement, and guess what? It's still there. All right, it's still in the market. You still see it today. In 1997, there was the introduction of the all-share index. I'll talk about that in a definition. We've got 20 listed companies that have issued their shares to the public, and 13 quoted. I'll talk about the 2 as well. There are 2 boards for the equity for shares. There's the main board and there's the alternative market. The main board is for large corporates, alternative market for high quality SMEs. Okay, and I'll talk about that as well in front. 2015 is when the Alt-M board was launched. Trading on the LuSE happens between 10 and 2 every day, apart from weekends and public holidays. So please don't call us on a weekend or public holiday because there's no trading which happens on the platform. The platform is fully automated. Who of us have been to the exchange before, physically? Oh no. Yes, okay. 1, 2, 3. Was that 3 at the back there? So 3 out of a possible 60 or so or less. So you need to come and visit. Not that there's anything fancy about our place. There's nothing fancy, but I wanted to point the fact that everything is automated. So we don't have, like you see in other exchanges, a big trading floor, people going, like what you've seen in movies, throwing papers, going mad. Hey, the stock market is, yeah, people are panicking. We don't have that because the market is fully automated. Everything is automatic by machine. CSD talked about the same system a moment ago. So everything is automated. So T+3 rolling settlement for equity, I think the CSD department talked about that, and T+1 for debt. We've got listing rules, and these are benchmarked JSC. Under SADC, the keyword there is benchmarked. We are not copying per se, but we benchmark because those are one of our big brothers, obviously in Africa. They are probably the biggest stock exchange in Africa. So you want to align with them to see how you can also get to that particular point. But also in addition, as SADC nations, there's a plan to see how we can integrate a bit more. So we need to start harmonizing in terms of rules. Then we're a member of COSE and ASEA. COSE is Committee of SADC Stock Exchanges. Our Chief Executive Officer is the Vice President. I think it's called, no, Vice Chair. It's called Vice Chairperson of COSE. And then the ASEA is African Stock Exchanges Association. Those are very important for us, and we are a member of both, simply because as a stock exchange, usually in a country like ours, we're the only one. So we don't get information from anybody within Zambia. We need to look outside to see how we can share notes with other stock exchanges. We've got 3 dual listed stocks on the market. Dual listed simply means that more than one country, are listed in more than one country. So ShopRite, for example, it's not where it's listed first is in South Africa, but also here in Zambia, right? You've seen it on our board. And then the second one is ZCCM. ZCCM is listed here first. It's also listed in France, and it's also listed in London. Okay, so that's ZCCM. Zambif is listed here first and also listed in London on their version of the alternative market in London. Okay, before I go to the next slide. Oh, okay. Can any one of us, let's try and get the 20 listed companies that are listed. Can we try and name them? Because as a journalist, if we don't know the listed companies, then we're in big trouble, right? So let's get to know them without Googling, without peeking at
Your hand.
slide. Let's name some listed companies.
We have the Copperbelt Energy Corporation,
Mhm,
and then we have Zambia Sugar.
Mhm.
Then
Okay, I've mentioned 2. You're going to
Puma.
okay, 3. Okay,
Next.
just behind there, or in the purple.
ShopRite.
Yep,
We have Zambif, we have Bata.
yep. Yeah, they're picking the ones you want, right?
African Explosive.
Okay, African Explosive. That's a rare one. Good job.
Airtel and MTN.
Oh, MTN, no.
Okay.
Airtel, yes. MTN, no.
Standard Chartered.
Okay,
Chiranga Cement.
okay. 10. Another 10 to go.
First Quantum.
No. So that one is no. You've tried, but they're not there anymore. Okay, there's at the back here. We've gotten 10, right?
Madison Financial Services.
Okay, good. Madison Financial Services. Excuse me?
Real estate investment.
Yes. Okay, good. As a very special instrument, good. 12, yes.
Zambian Breweries.
Zambian Breweries, good. 13. Almost there. 7 more. This is good. Yeah, it's jogging your brain, right? Mm-hmm.
Zafico.
Zafico, good. This side is not happening. This side is happening. That side is not happening.
Zambian Reinsurance.
Okay, Zambian Reinsurance Company, good.
Pamosi Hotels.
No. No. So listed. There's a very key word I use. Listed. It's quoted now. So listed.
So we're at what, 40, 50?
We're 14. I think 14. Did you Google? That's why you're back.
Yeah, Googling. Don't Google.
This is a good exercise. It gives me an idea also of where we're at. Okay.
Mention the last 5.
Zamefa.
Good. Zamefa.
Zambia Sugar.
We already said sugar. Eh? What's the full name for Zamefa? Yes, okay. So Metal Fabricators of Zambia. Okay, good.
The last 3 now.
Who's Googling? How do you know the last ones? Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I don't know it.
No. Don't get leakage. Yes.
Zambia National Bank.
Okay,
Zambia
what is
National
it? No, what is it known today? It's the big, strong, reliable. Yes. Zanaco, okay. How many have we got? 15 or 16? We're short about 4.
4.
We're 16. We're short 4. Which ones are you short of? As one which I know. Oh, there are 2. Okay.
It's Madson.
Okay, we said Madison already. The one you just said, we haven't said, I don't think. Say it. The one you said before Madison. You started with it. You said Z. Oh, he said, is it? Oh, wow, I'm giving leakage. No, Madison was already said, though, but it's correct. So can we finish them off? Yes.
Mining sector.
Yes, yes, that's CMIH. You've got two more. 3 or 2. But I know there are 2 which they haven't mentioned. Another one I can't think of.
Okay, Mopan copper mines.
No.
Okay, cases.
No, oh, now you're guessing. See, now you're guessing. Yeah. Imagine you take that journalism outside and say Mopani listed on the loose. We'll shoot you. Okay, let's close it out. I know time is going. The other one you missed out on was on British American Tobacco. Did you say that one?
No.
British American Tobacco, Zambia. Did you say national breweries? You said Zambian breweries. Did you say national breweries?
There's national breweries.
It's not the same thing. They're 2 different companies. Very important. They're 2 different. Zambian breweries and national breweries are 2 different companies. You see why this is important? Yeah, okay. They're 2 different companies. The others I think you mentioned on this slide. The next slide, which one did you miss? Did you say Airtel? Oh, so it means you said all of them. What? Yeah, it was just the 2. It was just British American Tobacco and someone said it, African Explosives. Yeah, so it was mentioned. So those are your companies. It's really important for you to know those companies. I can't stress it enough because when the announcements which come out, you need to know what sector are they in, what are they doing, how can we see how we can dig more into this particular sector. So very important. I'll talk about the stockbrokers now. We've talked about the issuers. Stockbrokers, we've got 2 types, and legal, please don't kill me. I tried to make it as simple as possible, but we've got trading brokers on one end and we've got sponsoring brokers, right? Trading brokers, these are the intermediaries between the investor and the exchange. So you can't come to the exchange as an investor without a trading broker, right? You're with me? Sponsoring broker is the intermediary between the issuer and the exchange. So if issuers want to come to the market, a sponsoring broker will be there to handhold them and bring them to market, okay? So they help them come to market and help them with the continuing obligations as stated earlier. So I've highlighted the trading brokers there. There are ones which are in bold on the trading brokers side. The ones which are in bold are also sponsoring brokers. They're both trading and sponsoring brokers. Apart from Hobbiton Investments there. And then the sponsoring brokers there on the side, you've got Zanaco, Kukula, and Finance Securities. With Kukula, I think they have gotten their trading license. Yep, but they're not yet active on the market. So I kept them on the sponsoring, but they do have both sponsoring and trading license. All right, are we good on that side? I'm whizzing through this presentation. So trading, this is a part you'd be interested in. Now trading, how do we trade on the market? They talked about it a bit, they highlighted a bit. 1 minute, only. See the listed company. Okay, let's try and just get these definitions out. So we'll look at the definitions. When you're looking at trading on the market, these are some of the key definitions you look at. So you've got a trade. So a trade is a transaction. So think about it just as a transaction. When I say this trade has happened, it's a transaction which has happened on the market when buyer and seller agree at a particular price, right? So you exchange securities for cash and vice versa, right? So that's at a specific price. That's when a trade happens, okay? Volume. Volume is the number of shares traded. For us as a LuSE on the trading board, when you see results, it means it's the number of shares that have traded in that particular period, or if you're reviewing a period, maybe 6 months or the day or the week, you'd say volume is the number of shares that have traded, not the number of shares which haven't traded or are in the market. No, the ones which have traded. Turnover refers to the kwacha value of the securities traded. So the price of a certain security multiplied by the number of shares that were traded will give you the turnover. Okay, so when we say market turnover of the past week was 40.1 million, that was last week. Yeah, 40.1 million. That's what we mean in terms of kwacha value that was traded this past week was 40.1 million kwacha. Yep. The Lusaka All-Share Index, this is always an interesting one. An index essentially is really something which tracks the performance of a certain group or portfolio. So the Lusaka All-Share Index tracks the performance of the shares which are listed on the Lusaka Securities Exchange. So it's designed to be a measure. So when it goes up or down, it essentially is measuring, okay, have prices appreciated, what we call bullish in our market, have they appreciated over the certain period? And then we say depreciated, you see the number go down. Overall, what's the average pricing been? Has it gone up or down on the market? And that will be a bearish market. Have you heard those terms before? Bullish and bearish? That's sort of the language we use. But essentially what we're saying, bullish, upward trend, bearish, downward trend. Yeah. So it's just telling you how the bull and the bear fight. You can read on that history. Then bid, whenever we say a bid on the market, it's the buy side of the transaction. We say offer, it's the sell side of the transaction. So allow me then, I know I don't have much time. I was going to go through the trading sessions, each one of them. But we may then do an online version of this, I think, because we're running out of time. But essentially, I just want to tell you how this happens on the market when we're talking about a trade. The trade in the ATS in the system picks number one price priority. The highest buy or the highest bid and the lowest offer always have preference over all other trades, right? So if I have something in the market for 1 kwacha or something like that, and somebody is offering 2 kwacha for it, they'll pick the highest bid, the highest buyer, the one who is giving the most money for that particular security. That takes preference, right? And then the lowest offer, the one who is selling the cheapest, will trade quicker on the market. It makes sense, right? Logically, like you go to the market, if you want to go buy bananas, just go to auntie who is selling at 2 kwacha than the one who is doing at 3 kwacha. You know what I mean? And as for the buyer, you'd want to buy higher. If you really want bananas, I'll pay anything for it. Just give me bananas. Okay? So that's how it works in the market as well. The next priority is time priority. And time priority is when the orders are at the same price, like they're the same price at 1 kwacha, but the earliest one, the one which comes in first, takes precedence, right? It's first come, first serve. That's essentially what we're saying for the market. I will end here because I'm cognizant of time. I had so much more to say, but thank you. I'll ask in preparation, maybe we can stretch. Please take note of all the questions that you have. We'll answer them. I think because of time, we're supposed to do a Q&A after every session, but due to time, we may need to move it. But take note of the questions. So at one particular point, we can answer those questions for you. Okay, so let's take a stretch, like just stand, don't move as we wait for the next speaker to come through. Thank you very much. Okay. We have stretched a bit, eh? Okay, great. So I'm moving on to the next presentation. And this presentation has to deal with, I think maybe it's more familiar language to you all. This one has got to do with ethical considerations in business reporting, and it will be done by Reverend Dyson Goma, who will take us through this session. He's from ZAMCOM. And I think it's relatable because, like for me, I know ethics on my side of capital markets, but I may not know what the ethical standards are from a journalism perspective. So these are some of the nuggets he'll give us. Reverend Goma, rather, you may come through and give your presentation. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dyson Goma. I'm a lecturer at ZAMCOM. Among the courses that I teach, political economy of the media and also media law and ethics. I'm so happy to be here this morning. And my role is just to stimulate your minds on the need for ethical business reporting. And also in the process of doing so, I'll just highlight on some of the basic reporting ideas that you may be familiar with. On a lighter note, I want to mention that we've been bombarded with a lot of business jargons this morning. And I hope at some point, colleagues, we can also shine and bombard them with our own journalists. Yeah. Okay, in terms of outline of the presentation, this presentation has been organized in fourfold. In the first part, I'll just highlight on the concepts of business journalism and ethics. In the second part, I'll look at the necessity of ethics in business reporting. And specifically, I will talk about the uniqueness of the field that you have chosen to be part of. And I'll also talk about the rise in fake journalists and zero in also on the permissiveness of the society in which we are operating. Then before I conclude, I'll draw your attention to three main ethical issues. I know there are several ethics that are part of our code of conduct, and specifically, I'll look at accuracy, objectivity, and comprehensiveness, not comparativeness, and then conclude. Okay, so what do we understand by business journalism? What is our understanding? I know this is what we have been doing all along, and what is business journalism? Yes? Yes, sir. Okay, you can give him the mic. Give him the mic. Okay. Thank you. What do others think?
This is simply a branch of journalism that focuses on business, news, trends.
Okay. Then in terms of ethics, what do you think business journalism ethics? What comes to your mind when you hear that concept?
right? So in a broader term, from a broader perspective, I mean, ethics talk about, you know, what is right and wrong in a particular field. And so ethics in business journalism just talk about, you know, your moral responsibility as a journalist to be able to do the right thing or to report the right way.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to add on that? Okay, we can have the last one and then proceed.
I think it's basically the do's and don'ts when it comes to business reporting.
Okay. I know it's a contested subject. Later on, I think we'll talk about issues of Blarizo, brown envelopes. I mean, you don't want to hear about that, but we'll talk about that. Yeah. Yeah. Comrade Derek Sinjera doesn't want anyone to speak ill of Blarizo. So, is he here? Is he here? Ah, okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, so with his permission, I'll talk about that. So in this presentation, I'll refer to business journalism as a branch of journalism that tracks, analyzes, and interprets changes in the economic state of any society. This is a highly recognized definition by most of the scholars. But in most of the literature, you'll find that terms such as economic journalism, business journalism, and financial journalism are used interchangeably, but within them there are some variations. So at the core of all these terminologies, business journalism, economic journalism, and financial journalism is the process of collecting, analyzing, and presenting news to the audience upon which our target audience is supposed to make decisions on. On the other hand, as you rightly pointed out, ethics is about rightness or wrongness of an action. In terms of its etymology, we know that it comes from the Greek word ethos, which means custom, character, usage, and other terms. Broadly speaking, journalism ethics is a set of values and principles, standards that guide our conduct and actions as media personnel and also the media industry at large. Business journalism ethics are just a segment of those principles and guidelines which guide our conduct. So when we, in terms of thinking, we need to understand that our actions as journalists should be underpinned by the philosophy of our role in the society. We know, broadly speaking, that as a fourth estate, we have got a greater responsibility in shaping the decisions of the members of the community. When we talk of it from the role of media and democracy, you are familiar of the role of the media as a watchdog. And so when we come to business journalism ethics, our understanding is that we have a responsibility towards the society that we serve. And as such, we cannot afford to be careless in the way we conduct our business. This leads me to the second segment. Why do you think it is necessary to have business ethics? Apart from media ethics in general, why do you think it's important for us to talk about this aspect of journalism as it relates to business reporting or business journalism at large. Why do you think business journalism ethics are inevitable? Why should we talk about this? Is it necessary at a time such as this? Comrade Sinjela.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I think it's necessary because for there to be, for us to achieve transparency, for us to achieve transparency, we need to build trust. And trust can only be stronger and firmer if it's built on the basis of good ethical conduct.
Great, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, why should we emphasize on this?
I think we should bear in mind, my name is Augustine from Zambia Monitor. Should bear in mind that if we do not uphold these ethics, there are ramifications that come with how you frame your story on a particular company. Let's say I misinterpret figures to do with Glencore, Mopani, or KCM for starters. It will mean how I've written the story is how the investors will probably respond to buying shares or investing in that company. If they see that I've written it in negative, I think they'll not be interested to buy anything. But if the story is about positivity, the following day we might see the shares going up and a lot of investors, investing in there. So we should bear in mind on the ramifications that come with how we interpret the numbers, how we write the story itself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unless there is anyone else who wants to make a contribution, we can proceed. I think for me, three things come to mind. We know that business reporting is one of the tools on which people base their decisions. For citizens to participate in a democratic society, information such as economic reporting is very, very important for them to have in order for them to effectively participate in the in a democratic society. There's a famous author here. I think every one of us who has passed through a journalism school knows about Dennis McQuail. We can go to the other slide. Inevitability of ethics in journalism. Okay, so you can next. You can move on. Okay. Next. Okay, you can. Okay, you can move on. Okay, there we are. So I'll read what Dennis McQuail says. He says, it is assumed that for the media to serve the ends of the whole society, rather than those of some sectors of society, media professionals must be guided by certain ethical standards. What this simply means is that there's a point where we tend to act out of selfish motives as media personnel and also as media houses. You are familiar with the pressures that are in the industry, okay? I was manager at our radio station, United Voice Radio, and sometimes you go for some months without having sufficient income to pay the personnel. And these are the people that go out in the field to collect news and disseminate it to the public. And there's a temptation of tilting a story towards the needs of the advertisers and indeed those who have got muscle to meet your needs. So because of that, we need to have ethics to guide us in terms of how we can conduct in a time when we face ethical dilemmas. So for me, I said three things. Number one is the uniqueness of the field itself. Within it, my colleague there pointed out at the kind of audience that you have. Apart from the general members of the public, you have a niche audience as economic journalists. You have people who are looking out for information on which they can base their decisions about investment, and anything wrong done to the information that you disseminate to them is going to negatively affect their investment. People who make wrong decisions based on the kind of information that you give to them out there. So because of the nature of the audience that we have, but also because of the nature of the sources that we have, the sources that we have require high level of analysis. You'll be dealing with documents, you deal with CEOs, you deal with market analysts, and all these people need credibility on your side. You need to show that you are worth the credibility as a journalist, and this comes with ethical reporting. So if we do not handle our sources well, if we do not handle our audience well, at the end of the day, we are going to mess up. We can go to the other slide. I want to state, if this is not a good term, I'm sorry, but I want to use it anyway. The proliferation of quacks in the field. We have a lot of quacks in the field. We have a lot of, almost every profession has been infiltrated by fake people, but I think even ours is not an exception. So what sets you apart as a journalist is the manner in which you conduct yourself, okay? We know we have Facebook lawyers, we have Facebook economics, even Facebook market analysts. Yeah, but I think ours has been highly infiltrated. Every Jim and Jack who has a high definition camera phone will be there masquerading as a journalist. And what can set us apart is our adherence to the guiding principles and standards of our profession. I'm personally very passionate about this. I enrolled for journalism at Evelyn Horn when I was only 18, immediately from my secondary school. So it has been part of me, and it really disheartens me to see, people masquerading as journalists without any basic training in the field. We have people even in industries who are doing the work of a journalist when they are professionals who are supposed to do that. So the picture is very gloomy, and what can really set us apart is our adherence to the ethical standards. This is what can distinguish us from the quacks out there. Even in a setup like this one, you'll find that there are people who just say, oh, there's a workshop, and then they'll masquerade as journalists, line up for Blarizo, get it, and then disappear in the thin air. So the onus is on us. We need to stand tall. We need to demonstrate out there that we are worth the trust. And last on this, I think the permissive nature of our society is calling us to rise up and defend our profession. I think we live in a community where it's very difficult to distinguish right from wrong. Even in our field now, you know, some of the things which people used to shun most, those who have gone before us, this time around now, we take them casually, you know. I learned that in some circles, people have formed associations, like you have an association of business reporters. And then through that association, one story will be sent, and then you do copy and paste report, and then gives also a cent through the representative of your association. And the people think it's normal as long as at the end of the day, you have something. So Innocent Piri writes a very good article. I think you can access it online. He says journalists face dilemmas at different levels. Number one, on the professional level, at the personal level, institutional level, and also at the societal level. My interest perhaps would be on the institutional level. There are times when you want to write a story objectively, okay? But you also have pressure of finances. And then you hear a call from an advertiser or someone with the big muscles saying that if you don't tone down on the story, we are going to cut off advertising. What do you do at the end of the day? You just tilt the story towards the needs of those that that finance you. So these are some of the pressures that we meet, and some of them have been brought on board as normal practices. When I was talking about Bralizo, freebies, and other issues, I just want to mention that there are two schools of thought. The first one is coming from the Western idea of journalism ethics, okay? Where the emphasis is you need to do the right, you have to be objective, but also Africans of late have been trying to conceptualize what ethics would mean in an African context. For example, they will argue that in an African context, it's not a good thing to reject a gift, okay? If you are given a gift, you need to get it, okay? And other scholars also say that the morality of media professionals goes with the political tone in a particular context. It would be very unfair, for example, to call for professional and ethical reporting on the part of journalists when in other fields like politics, mention them, people do not behave in an ethical manner. So this is the conversation that has been going on. And I thought I can make mention of that just to comfort Comrade Singela there. So what are some of the ethical issues in business reporting? Let's now zero in on ethical considerations. Yes, sir.
Accurate reporting. You need to report the facts and not just something from your mind. You need to analyze. And yeah, thanks. That's it.
My students got annoyed when I said, don't get stories from your armpits. Said, don't get stories from your armpit. Don't get stories from nowhere. Don't just concoct, facts and then present them. And it seems for some professionals that has become a trend. It has become a norm. Okay, let's let's participate, guys.
Okay, another basic one is where, say, there's a story that speaks in negative light of a certain individual or a certain firm or a company. It's only right that you also accord the people that are being attacked or that are being spoken in negative light of an opportunity to also respond. That's also another basic.
Yeah, so talk of issues of fairness and story being balanced. I think these were introduced to us in our first year journalism class, specifically in basic reporting and also in media law and ethics. So let us just, let's have a conversation around this. Yes, please.
My name is Mangaira. I'm a journalist. I write for Zambia 24. I want to bring you back a little bit from your earlier presentation when you said the profession is littered with facts.
Yes.
Now, well-trained journalists, whatever they are, they follow certain trends of writing. And whatever they write, what is produced has to pass through 5 hands. The one who writes, one who edits, one who deletes, one who ensures that enough has been deleted, and the one who allows it to pass. Now, that is how journalists operate. Now, in this modern society where we have got citizen journalists, provided he has got a smartphone, goes to capture something and broadcast that issue via social media and this particular thing, those wrongdoings are always blamed on us journalists, simply because we have not spoken out ourselves. We are only receiving blames. Now, when you are preparing that lesson of yours, where you are in this particular part, did you take into consideration such possibilities? Because even on ethics, our ethics are pure, and we abide by those. And we find that sometimes people would come in with an idea of how they want to use journalists to suit their interests. And if focus on their professional ethics, then they are considered as somehow not being ethical. But I don't know how we'll look into this particular part. So such activities sometimes tend to be demotivating to well-meaning journalists who stand by their ethics, because they have to die based on those accusations. So maybe try to look in those areas and also contrast between citizen journalists, those who are not trained, but just want to venture into our fields. And among those quack journalists, there could be lawyers who are not trained on how to communicate through media space, but they only, whatever they get, then they put that particular part. When the blame comes, will fall squarely on journalists, and journalists will not be able to speak because they have to weather the knocks coming from different angles.
Oh, great. I appreciate those sentiments. And in our conversation, I did not want us to be on the defensive side. I wanted us to be so honest to ourselves and try to take an introspection on some of the pressures that we face, which present a challenge to our profession. You have rightly pointed out when I was talking about the necessity of business journalism ethics, I think I did indicate that the rise in citizen journalism is presenting a challenge to us, and it is up to us to rise to the occasion and ensure that people are able to distinguish quacks from professional journalists. I am of a different view. When you say the blame is always coming on journalists, I think the pressure is very real. The pressure is very real. Honestly, you've gone for months without a pay, and then there's an opportunity for you there. really the temptation is quite big, and sometimes those are the moments when we as professionals tend to compromise. So what is important for me is for us to keep on reminding ourselves in a session such as this. The blame does not, I'm a board member of MISA, and we deal with some of these things, okay? We deal with some of these things, and you are also familiar of, the apologies and the retractions that sometimes we make because we did not take time to check certain facts. We are professionals, but I think at times we tend to fall in these dilemmas. I think that is my comment. Can we proceed with that comment? Is it fine? Okay, yes, there is a, yes, please, then we can have this one as the last one.
So answering ethics, in answering to ethics, you have to be factual, you have to be truthful, and you have to be unbiased.
Right, precisely that.
Reverend Goma, they're giving all the right answers. Execution, I don't know.
No, these are brilliant people. What they are saying has been part of them. That's why comrade there is not comfortable that we are just punching
Okay.
professionals so much. Yes.
I think the issue of ethics is very, very important because for a very long time, I think growing up as a young girl, TV, radio, newspaper, those were the go-to places for information. Anything that came through Daily Mail, Times of Zambia, or ZNBC was gospel truth. But over time, we saw that with the coming of social media and all these other platforms, there's been a lot of infiltration, as it were. And so you don't know where to get this information. And to some extent, this has led to mistrust. Sometimes you find that, kaja kakawaya waya or takataka TV station or radio station. But what I'm trying to drive at is the fact that a lot of the times, as you earlier alluded to, journalists have had to compromise because I think the sector, and when I say this, I speak for a lot of the journalists out there, is not really structured. We have accountants with a professional body. We have lawyers with a professional body. We have named them, they have professional bodies, but who really safeguards the interest of the journalist? A journalist could go for months on end without getting paid. Who's looking out for their interest? And so when a journalist finds an opportunity to go for a workshop, whatever it is, and they are offered some money, are they going to deny that money? You haven't gotten paid for 4 months. So who really? So I think our plea, especially because you're coming from MISA, is that can we really have some structures? And that is where we're going to sieve off people that you're calling quacks. Because if I'm a trained journalist and I invested so much money to go to school, I think I should be able to reap the dividends. But if there's nothing to show for it, I'll end up doing whatever it is that I can do to be able to feed myself and my family. So this really should be looked into. Thank you.
Very true. I was challenging students in one of the classes. I said, okay, you speak about the wrongs in the community. You tell us about the violation of workers' rights in a certain Chinese company. When you yourselves are the victims of similar wrongs that you report about, why don't you report about, yes, why don't you? So, okay, so my appeal to you, arising from what my sister said, let us get coordinated. Let us stop fighting each other. I think there's a lot of infights amongst ourselves, and much of our time is spent on pulling each other, pushing and pulling each other. Take, for example, the issue of ZAMEC, okay? It has turned a lot of turns and twists, an idea would come up, today another idea will come up the other day without finding any solution. I hope that as we head towards self-media regulation, the assumption is that the media is mature enough to regulate itself. Otherwise, if we can't, then these guys, the politicians, will continue regulating us. This caused us, again, to go back to our ethics so that people can have trust in us. Is there someone who wanted to say something?
No,
Or
Mr. Goma, I just
proceed?
wanted to intervene before I
Okay.
do. Could we just make sure that I know this discussion can go on for days? And there are a lot of things. I would like Mr. Goma to really hit the heart of what he had presented for us today. Then we can write all the questions that we have down for him specifically, and thereafter we can continue. So there's paper in front of you, please.
Okay.
Let's do so. Mr. Goma, you can continue.
Thank you so much. So let me zero in on 3 ethical issues. Number 1, the aspect of objectivity. And I want to talk about in the light of conflict of interest because of the nature of the meeting that we have. Objectivity simply aims to present news and information without bias. We know that today's media landscape is highly polarized, and sometimes it becomes a very big challenge to be objective. Next year we'll be having elections, and you'll see different media spaces championing partisan interests, and you can clearly see that this particular media house is towing this line, and this other one is also towing the other line. Conflict of interest comes in when, for example, you have financial ties, familial ties, or relationships, or even bias towards a certain company. For example, you want to report about a particular company that is listed on Lusaka Securities Exchange. I'm sure you will not come out, you will not write a story as you should if you have certain interests in that particular company. Also, I talked about the issues of freebies, brown envelopes, checkbook journalism. This is where, for example, at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, journalists are given some incentives, such as calendars, diaries. I'm sure no one has a diary from a company. No one has a diary from a source. Oh, great, yes. So those freebies are given to us. But at the end of the day, you can receive a diary and still report objectively. Brown envelopes, there are instances where people are paid for stories, okay? Whatever name, I think we need to talk about it because that's what our profession requires us to. And these things are coming to us. So can we receive and at the same time remain objective? The second one is comprehensiveness of a story. We know that journalists must provide context to the story that they write. A story should have all the relevant facts, perspectives, and details, which your audience can base on to make their decisions. And, you know, there's a tendency, there's this term which they call he or she said kind of journalism. He said, she said, you know, and it ends there, you know, without any depth to it. But the nature of the field of business journalism requires that you give a little bit of depth to the story that you are reporting. You need to give context to what you are reporting so that people understand who are the real people behind those stories so that they can be able to, they are able to make concrete decisions. This also requires high level of inquiry on our part. We need to develop skills in research. It is so embarrassing that at times our stories are not well researched. I think we had some terms here. I had a lot of new terms, Lina, here, which will need time for a journalist to research and inquire their meaning, so that when you present a story to the audience, at least you yourself would have understood what you are talking about. Again, this guy says a good reporter always starts with the basic questions of who, what, where, when, why, how. These are the 5 W's and 1 H, but in business journalism, we should also ask questions such as how much, how many. It should not just end on the 5 W's and 1 H. We need to find out who are the people that have been affected by a particular policy. Who are the beneficiaries of a particular decision? For example, what questions would a business reporter ask if government claims to have paid 2,000 retirees in 2024? Just for example, what questions would you ask as a business reporter? How much did the government pay them? Okay. What else? How many beneficiaries? Okay. Are there arrears? Yes. So how much did each retiree receive? You may be talking about a 50,000. And then you go out there, and make it as a headline because you did not take time to inquire or provide context to the story. What questions would you, as a business reporter, be interested in upon learning that a new supermarket has been opened in a particular locality, for example? What questions? Yes, sir. How much has been invested? Yes, how much employment? What are the employment opportunities? What are the prices of essential goods as compared to the other stores in the same locality? How does who are the main beneficiaries? Where are they getting the goods? How much benefit are the locals getting from that? So when we bring it to what we have been presented with, similar kind of trend applies. We need to interrogate the facts before us. You are not employed as PR professionals. Not that I'm demeaning the field of PR, no, but I think you are speaking on behalf, you are speaking to the audience out there. People are monitoring what is that is on the market. Okay, is it time when people can put investment in particular markets, or it's not time? So what you present to them should have a lot of depth at the end of the day. Also on the aspect of comprehensiveness, bring out the human element to the story. How does it affect the buyers? How does this policy affect the suppliers, the producers, and the general public? But also you can localize. There are certain trends which are global and they seem to be so remote. But your role as a journalist too is to localize some of those trends. You can interview the local experts on the market so that you can bring home that story. You remember in our basic reporting, the aspect of proximity. Yeah, so proximity can be geographical, but also psychological. Okay, so you can bring some of the global trends home. You can localize your story by interviewing the locals. How are the locals being affected, for example, by the war in another continent? Okay, you need to let them. You need to understand what is at play on the local market. Okay, then The last one is accuracy and fact checking. This is where I come back to the aspect of fake news. What is happening now, because of the rise in citizen journalism, requires us to be more vigilant and ensure that facts are checked before being disseminated to the members of the public. We must take caution against disseminating information without taking time to have it verified by experts, more especially information to do with the finances, information to do with economics and business at large. Let us make sure that at least authorities have checked through. Make sure that at least you are verified with the authorities before you publish alarming statements out there. I want to mention that certain policies may take time for them to sink, in the public space. You should not be in a hurry to call certain policies as a failure, as a disaster, even before a policy could take off. We've seen this kind of reporting, some of our colleagues have unfortunately become alarmists, and they seem to thrive in that, You can be critical, but at the same time, without being an alarmist. You can be critical without alarming the public. Certain information, please, you are a journalist primarily, unless you have qualifications in other disciplines such as economics, finances. But the point I'm saying is that there are people who are experts in particular field, and you must be able to take time and check with them so that you avoid distortions. Distortions can happen by exaggeration of figures, placing improper emphasis on one aspect of a story, reporting the facts out of context, and also suppressing relevant available facts. Small errors that may seem to be so insignificant, I think my colleague there did mention, those can make people lose their investment at the end of the day. So we need to take caution against that. Let's not be in a hurry. This is my advice. Don't be in a hurry to make headlines without fact checking. I would say, like our Lord Jesus Christ, what shall profit a man or a woman to be the first one to publish a story, only to have a story retracted a few minutes later because the facts were not checked? So let us take time. Also, let us use words accurately, but in a very simple manner. Remember this, the acronym KISS, keep it simple. But to that also, there's a caution. Keep it simple. I'm a man of God, I don't want to say stupid. So stupidity comes in when you oversimplify the facts, okay? You oversimplify the facts to the point that the story becomes stupid. So let us, when I was talking about the jargons, every profession has jargons. The legal profession, we have counsels here. I didn't hear your presentation. I think you presented earlier on. Where are they? Counsel, where are you? Where is counsel? Counsel has gone. Where are you, counsel? Oh, yes. So after the judgment of Chizombe versus Edgar Lungu and the Electoral Commission, we were treated to a lot of legal jargons, which I'm sure in 5 years' time will become names of children in Northern and Muchinga. Let's do Decata, Peicurium, So all those are technical terms which are peculiar to the profession. We as journalists also have our own journalists. When you talk about leads, briefs, subheads, I think Lina will not understand them, okay? But in the process of your interviews, your interaction with business people, You also come across a lot of jargon. Some of them, you heard them this morning. Earnings per share, market capitalization, and they like saying fiscal policy, fiscal year. What else? Today I learned sponsoring broker. I heard it for the first time. You know, a lot of those technical jargons, you as a reporter may know them, but your audience may not know them. So simplify them. Bring it to the level of their understanding. Again, Penny says good journalism brings business and economics to life, making them relevant and interesting to all general audiences, not just businessmen. So this comes in when we take time to interact with our sources. I want to conclude by saying that ethical journalism is the foundation upon which well-informed, stable, and trustworthy economic environment is built. Without professional reporting, consequences can be far-reaching. People make wrong decisions because of the kind of information that they receive from us. So the purpose of this presentation was simply to stimulate your thoughts over the ethical issues in business reporting. And I've done so by highlighting the concept of business journalism and ethics. Secondly, pointing out the necessity of business journalism, and also highlighting on selected ethical considerations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was good, yeah? I think I learned a lot. I'm not in this space. People are already putting up their hands. I haven't even concluded.
Now you can grill me.
So I think what we'll do is that we've got about 10 minutes. So we've got 10 minutes to ask questions before we head off for lunch. What I'd ask, in the interest of time and also in consideration of others around us, let's keep it short and brief. One question. You can ask, I know most of them are going to go to Reverend Goma, but you can ask myself, the people who presented, Peter at the back, Sherry as well, Stali here. If there's anything that who else presented? If you've got any questions, and then we can answer it from our various segments. All right, let's go.
Good afternoon, LuSE. ZAMCOM. They call me Daka Edwin.
But who are you?
A name that was given by my parents. Help me understand something. In my view, I feel what the media sells is news. And news is our business. Is there any wrong for an institution or individuals to pay for publicity? Because what is used to generate resources besides adverts, which most media houses don't have unless they are affiliated to government, mostly? What's the wrong for LuSE to pay to be published? What is wrong with them paying? Because I'm hearing most of the times when people come to the podium, they tend to criticize us when someone pays for an article to be published. Is that their charity? Because I feel media is not charity, it's a business. So let it be treated as a business. Thank you.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank you, Reverend Goma, over your presentation. I totally agree with you on the ethics in relation to business reporting. My name is Jeff Kapemwa. I freelance. I write for Dow Jones Newswire and locally Zambia Informer. I just wanted to agree with you on who should be a business journalist. It's a very complex desk where I really have to be accurate on what I'm reporting. I'll take an instance of Julie Motors making a profit of third quarter. Instead of saying they've made a profit of third quarter, I say they've made a loss. That can be run on the institution. So the question is, do I understand the business fundamentals? So I really wanted to agree that if I am not very conversant with profit and loss in a company or how the capital market operates, I may write to say the capital market, the bondholders have withdrawn and gone out of Zambia. And yet they're just transferring the bonds from one format to the other or government securities. So for me, I've always advocated that for someone to come on the business desk, he must have been exposed to what is of business reporting and not what is a political reporting. So this is where I want to thank you so much for bringing out the essence of understanding the fundamentals of business reporting, financial. For instance, I write for Dow Jones. I may write a story about Zambia, but one misinterpretation, say on the windfall tax, can make the investor wanting to come to go away because I don't understand windfall tax. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One more then.
I need some kind of a balance between business ethics and interpretation of news. How do you strike a balance? Because as journalists, we interpret news differently. What the company you are reporting on may call profit, for a particular news organization may interpret that as loss. And when they publish that, it may hammer on their income. So where do we strike a balance on this one between the two?
Thank you.
Reverend, you may proceed
Okay,
to answer
what's
that.
your name, sir?
Mangaira. I write for
yes,
Zambia
okay.
24.
Mr. Mangaira. You are true. You are right to say that actually what we present news is data interpreted by a journalist. And in my view, I tend to think that the first gatekeeper in the process of news gathering is a journalist himself before it reaches these other hands. But also there are different editorial policies and the different pressures which I was talking about. If you do your work properly as a journalist, I think there are people who have got a final say in terms of what is supposed to be published out there. So what may be called news may vary from one media organization to another because of, among other factors, the editorial policies of different media organizations. I like referring to literature because I'm in academic space, in an academic space. Mr. Amasaka wrote in his dissertation, makes reference to one of the public broadcasters where people are literally threatened against publishing a story from a certain angle. So those pressures will also occur in the process of business reporting. Business reporting is not an exclusion to that. So in those times, you have to succumb to what your editorial policy and the management thinks of what should be given out to the public. Mr. Kapembo, I think yours was just a comment, and thank you for that comment. Mr. Daka wanted to find out what is wrong with paid publicity. I think paid publicity has its own place, and the news has its own place in journalism. I think that is very clear. During the 2021 elections, there was a lot of money pumped in by political stakeholders, you know, a lot of money. And that was a time for virtual rallies. I was manager at United Voice Radio, and we were being paid handsomely. And people were saying, look at a religious broadcasting station playing Alapo, you know. For us, that was money, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. That is a kind of publicity. But when it comes to news, news is governed by principles. And some of the guiding principles are those that we've highlighted about. If we throw those to the winds, colleagues, it means our profession is gone. Will not be different from those colleagues I was talking about. So publicity, paid publicity has its own place, and news has its own place. If it is news that you want to disseminate, follow the guiding principles. Be objective, be fair, eat the money, but also adhere to the principles. Last but not the least, there's a field known as political economy of the media, and it talks about how the creation of content, distribution, and its consumption is influenced by the economic trends. And one of the issues that comes to the fore is how sometimes big fish out there would want to influence the content that you are supposed to give out to the public. And it takes ethical journalism to guard against such. So you can be paid, but at the same time, you have an allegiance. You owe your allegiance to your audience out there. Your stories have to be credible, and you can only do that when you adhere to the ethical standards. That's what I can say.
Okay, Reverend Goma, thank you very much. I will give you leave so that you can rest your, but I think you're still available, or you've got a question? Okay.
Is that Washimpun? Okay.
This question actually goes to you now. I understand these issues of ethics and others may be very topical, but my interest is you talked about listed companies and quoted companies. I just wanted, because we are talking about jargon here, what is the difference between these listed companies and also sponsoring companies? And I've also listed companies and quoted companies. Then also we have issues of sponsoring brokers, being also a listed company. What is the implication? Like ZANACO is both a listed company, but also on the other side is playing as a broker. What does it imply?
Thank you. It's not my question.
It's a great question. Is it directed to you?
Can I take a seat, Vina?
Yes, you may, please, please. No, let him take his leave, and then you can ask him questions thereafter.
Moreover, is my in-law.
Okay, my name is Thomas from Sun FM TV. My question is directed to you. In relation to your presentation, there's something that has been noted, especially about business reporting, too much of technicalities, and we end up missing the audience with regards to understanding the concept of this story. And this speaks more, especially interpretation of capital market itself. The sector seems to be very hard for even writers to understand what exactly they're writing about, especially with regards to statements. You end up just doing according to the information, the way the statement has come about. So with regards to reporting and not missing the exact point that you're trying to communicate as individuals within this space, how do we, as the media, strike a balance within the end of making it simple for our audience to understand what you're trying to communicate and not missing the actual point behind the technicalities that are contained in your reports? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ivy Mwansa. I'm from Power FM. Lina, my question is directed to you. So you mentioned that only 20 companies are listed on LuSE. So according to the Securities Exchange, I'd like to find out, why don't we have more companies listing on LuSE?
All right. Let me answer the three. The first one was to deal with the quoted and listed company. Quoted and listed. So listed, a listed company has pretty much has managed to adhere to all the listing on the market and has therefore been listed. You go through the listing, that's why the listings are there. Listing procedures. Have I done this? Tick, 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 tick. Goes through the LuSE for approval, and then you are officially listed onto the market. You are officially, your shares are available now to be traded on the market. A quoted company, really the only thing that the quoted company has done is gone to our regulator, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and has registered their securities with them. The reason the quoted company aspect came about is that we wanted it as a stepping stone to say, okay, these companies are coming. The first thing you do is to register your securities. So you are automatically quoted in that way. This one has registered the securities with the regulator. So it was there to mark intent that you're coming to the market. Now I'm going to start slowly building up and coming to market. What we found, this is another story, but essentially what we found is that necessary has become what's longer than a necessary. People have stayed there for extended periods of time, right? Because there hasn't been any parameters to say, oh, this X amount of time you're supposed to be in the quoted tier, then you have to move or you have to make a decision, etc. So really, it's just registration of your securities with the regulator. That's when you put you as quoted. It is essentially the first step in coming to list on. That's the difference between the two. Then your second question had to do with the sponsoring broker and the sponsoring broker and how a listed company such as ZANACO is both a listed company and a sponsoring broker. So essentially, I think when you're becoming a broker, you obviously have to sort of, within their case, you have to demarcate and say, look, it's the investment banking wing, which is which has to deal with that sponsoring brokerage service which they provide to the public. It's a service which they provide. And then they get licensing to provide that service. So when they come to, essentially, remember what we said a sponsoring broker was, somebody who now, it's business for them. They're now going to say, okay, you want this and this company wants to come and list. Okay, let's help you walk through the process of going to the market. They still have to adhere to the rules that govern brokers and how they behave in the market. They are not a special case because they're listed entity. They themselves, I guess, would know or have an understanding of how to get there because they went through it, possibly. But essentially, that's a function, it's a service that they provide. They have been licensed with that, so they're able to provide that service. So I don't think there's a conflict there. I don't know if I've gotten it correct with the lawyers. I'm always scared of the lawyers because they'll come shoot me afterwards. Yeah, but essentially that's the idea there. There was a point then on the technicalities and the complexity of capital markets here from my brother. I forgot, I didn't get your name again, Thomas. So Thomas, I think it is true. And I think all of us here who are in the capital market started with close to no knowledge as well. It took us a little bit of time. But I think we have found a lot of the media fraternity who are so inquisitive in terms of knowing and understanding what the market is about. I don't know if you saw in my presentation, I used a lot of analogies. I gave an example of the market, like a market, a normal market, and how it's familiar with the stock market. You know, there are certain concepts which you can align. I think there are ways in which you can break it down public. Capital markets looks often very complicated, and I think it can get very complicated. But at the base level, I think it's something even which I tried to explain it to my grandmother, and I think she got the general concept of it with much difficulty. There is a way. I think we're also given the turnout, we're also quite keen to host more of these workshops simply because now we can zone into various aspects of now capital markets. Today I fled through my presentation quite quickly, but essentially we want to also have very specific topics which we talk about. So even if it comes to the LuSE, if I just say, I'm just going to talk about listing and how a company lists on the market, or I'm just going to talk about trading and how that happens. I'm going to talk about certain fundamental things which happen in our environment that affect the stock market, all those conversations. So I noted as well today that there's much keen interest for capital markets, and I think we'll be willing then to make more segmented workshops or even online workshops, whichever the case is, so that we can then engage in these specific topics. But it is doable. I think we shouldn't be scared. It's very much doable. Okay, then Ivy, you mentioned 20 listed companies. Why don't we have more? That's a loaded question. You've just like opened Pandora's box. But I mean, there's so many aspects to this. I'll summarize essentially. So one of the things we have to take note of is a company coming to market is a company decision. So ultimately, it's the company who thinks and says, look, we want to issue shares on the market. Why? Because we want to raise capital, right? We want to be more prevalent in the market, right? So they have to make a decision from board level. They have to make that decision that we want to list on the market, right? So it takes a lot of thinking from that perspective. So it's a company. I can go and do all the convincing. I can come to your office. I can shine. I can do everything and tell you how good it is. But I can't ultimately drag you. I can encourage you to do so as a company. That's the first thing. The second thing I think is around, we are still as a country developing and building policies that will be more enabling for a robust capital markets. One of the key documents is the Capital Markets Master Plan. If you don't have it, go and find it. It's on the SEC website. It's a document of how capital markets will move in the next 10 years. Now 8, maybe. Yeah, so essentially that document tells you this is what we want to do so that we can help better the capital markets environment in Zambia. Let's make it more robust. Let's make it more dynamic. So policy is one of the big things we want to do. How do we encourage a company to come that will say, okay, we are incentivizing you A, B, C, D if you come to market? That will make the company maybe want to come to the market even more. We've got a lot of sensitization to do. You know, that's one of the reasons you are here. We want to give you the information so that you can also help push that agenda as well. So there's so many facets. Right now we're only 20, but we are definitely in the future. I think for LuSE, we are pushing for more of these to come to market. We're engaging with companies, we're engaging with institutional investors, we're engaging with fund managers so that they can come together and we can have people who can list or companies that can list on the market. I hope that answers you. I'll take the 3. It's lunchtime. Can we do afterwards? Oh, yes.
Okay, I do like the enthusiasm in the room and the appetite to learn more about capital markets. It just shows that if a person is willing to learn, then you act like a sponge. You'll be easily able to absorb so much information. Because if you have no interest, you will not learn. And you have a mental block because you know that capital markets is hard, so you won't even touch it. So I like this spirit, this attitude that you have and which I've seen in the room, that people are willing to learn and they have this appetite to learn, which is very, very good. At the commission, we have what we call town hall meetings every single last Thursday of the month on our social media pages. We break down capital markets into something that anyone can understand. So we run different topics. And if you would like, you can log in. We usually send out a link if you want to be part of the live feed, but also it runs on a Facebook page. So you can actually find out even in advance what topics are running on. And so we run topical issues on various things like what are shares, what are bonds, basic things. So I'm encouraging people to just log in and look out for this information. It's very, very easy to assimilate if you are able to find the time to do it, because that's all you need. It's just time. It's easy to find these concepts and understand them. Because when you start reporting, we get to read things in the media, and then you start asking that, what is this? Because it's not making sense, even to me as a person who is in capital markets. So you need to upskill, and I think that's the common thread that I'm seeing throughout the topics that have been given today. Upskill, keep learning. Don't stop learning, because once you stop learning, then there's a problem. So I just thought I encourage people that even as you continuously learn, there are free things out there that you can just tap to on the internet, basic concepts. Even as you are running a story about the performance of the market, go and research, do your research. All the information is out there for you to be able to get. Thank you.
Battery's dead, that's why. Thank you very much. We have to go for lunch. Can you write down the questions and hold? Everybody has gotten a coupon? Has everybody gotten a meal coupon? Yes, okay, so lunch is served. I think we can start going. It's at Harry's Grill. So before we do, just an announcement as well.